Planning a trip to Italy? There's a tradition that can make you feel like a local without speaking a word of Italian.
It's called Aperitivo, and it's part social ritual, part pre-dinner drink, and part just an excuse to sit back and watch the world go by.
But it's not just happy hour Italian style. There's history and etiquette and tradition, and a few insider tips that can make the experience even better.
In this video, we'll share the cultural origins of the aperitivo, we'll help you decide which one you should drink, and we'll tell you why this should be part of your ritual every time you go to Italy. And even if you're a non-drinker, you can still enjoy the ritual with a variety of non-alcoholic aperitivi.
We'll even show you how to make the aperitivi so you can bring Italy home whenever you want to.
The word aperitivo comes from the Latin word aperire, which literally means to open, as in open your appetite before dinner. An aperitivo is the name both of the social ritual as well as the actual drink that you would ask for when you're taking part in this ritual.
In most cities, aperitivo time is about 6:30 to 8:30, but it can go later in some tourist cities. And on the other hand, in smaller cities, there may be a smaller window, so if you miss it, you're out of luck. It's not uncommon at all to see a group of people standing at the bar with a drink, a small plate of snacks, talking for a half an hour before they go home for dinner.
It's good to know that there's some non-alcoholic options available, including San Bitter, either rosso or bianco, or a drink called crodino, which is a bittersweet, slightly medicinal tasting soft drink. And then of course a lot of people will just go out and order a sparkling water as their aperitivo.
Not surprisingly, the people credited with creating the aperitivo tradition are the same ones who created the ideal aperitivo ingredients. In 1786, Antonio Carpano invented vermouth, which is a fortified wine infused with herbs and spices. The locals loved it as a gentle pre-dinner drink.
And it's important to know that when we're talking about vermouth in this situation, we're talking about the sweet red vermouth, not the dry white vermouth that's used in martinis.
Another key influencer was Gaspare Campari, who invented his namesake liqueur in 1860 near Milano. The brand still operates today from the iconic Galleria Vittorio Emanuele in the center of Milan.
In contrast with Carpano's vermouth, which was sweet, Campari is actually bitter, and this combination of bitter and sweet flavors forms the basis of most aperitivi in Italy today.
Given what Anne just said, you won't be surprised to know that one of the earliest aperitivi was a mixture of just those two ingredients, Campari and vermouth. And that's called a mito, after the cities of Milano and Torino, the home of the two liqueurs.
So even though the earliest aperitivi came from northern Italy, today aperitivi, the whole ritual, is celebrated throughout the peninsula of Italy.
So let's start making some aperitivi. Before we start, it's good to know that while ice is not popular in Italy and it's not used in soft drinks or water, it's really key to the aperitivi.
And you should also know that wine is a perfectly common order during aperitivo time. It's just not as much fun as these drinks that we're going to talk about. We're going to start with a simple mito, which only requires 2 ingredients, plus ice, and a suitable glass. And usually for this drink, we would use a lowball or an old-fashioned, plus a slice of orange for garnish. To make it, we fill the glass about halfway with ice, then pour equal parts vermouth and Campari, usually a jigger or 1.5 ounces. And then we give it a quick stir and decorate it with the orange. Done. That's good.
The first drink to branch out from the 2 basic ingredients was the Americano. It was invented by Campari as a way to develop his brand by having additional uses for it.
And essentially you just take the Mito and you add sparkling water to it. So you make a lighter version of the original Mito drink. So we'll take our glass, add some ice, then we pour in the Campari, as we did before, and the vermouth. And then we fill the rest of the glass with soda water. And you can either garnish it with a lemon slice or an orange, and it's ready to drink. I'll drink.
A fun fact, while James Bond is really tied to the martini, the first drink he had in the first James Bond book, Casino Royale, in 1953, was an Americano.
It's believed that the name Americano comes from the drink's popularity with American tourists. But it's possible that the name didn't become attached to it until the Prohibition era, when droves of Americans came to Europe in search of tasty alcoholic drinks.
Now we come to one of the real heavy hitters in the Aperitivo world, the Negroni.
It is said to have been invented in Florence by Count Camillo Negroni back in the early 20th century. And it is said that he was at Bar Cazzoni and he demanded that the bartender make his favorite drink, the Americano, even stronger by replacing the soda water with gin. Now the bartender then further differentiated this drink by replacing the lemon peel from the Americano with an orange slice for the Negroni. And hence, the name Negroni was attached to this version of the drink.
While this story seems fabricated, it's well accepted and documented in the book Sulle tracce del Conte, La vera storia del cocktail Negroni, which means in the footsteps of the Count, the true story of the development of the Negroni.
Another fun fact, in 1947, when Orson Welles was working in Rome, he wrote a letter back home to a friend and said of the Negroni, "The bitters are excellent for your liver. The gin is bad for you." But they balance each other out. So to make a Negroni, we need our two basics, Campari and vermouth, plus ice, a low-ball glass, and an orange slice.
Now this one is very important that you get the proportions right to mellow it out. The other ones you can be a little bit liberal with how much you put in there, but if you get this one off, it doesn't do the balancing that it's supposed to do. So this one measure, the other ones I've measured them, but you can be a little more liberal with your measurements.
You can tell that this is Ed's favorite drink. He's very particular about how it gets made.
It needs more ice.
Yeah, so you do need to put a decent amount of ice in the glass. Oh, do I get to taste it? Even though it's your favorite drink? Tastes good to me. You be the judge.
Okay. That's cute. When I tried my first Negroni, I was skeptical because I thought the gin would overpower the other ingredients. But like I said when I was making it, if you make it in equal parts, it's actually a very smooth drink.
Now we'll talk about one of my favorites. I like this one a lot better than a Negroni, and it's called a Negroni sbagliato, which means a Negroni mistake. It comes from Milan's famous bar Basso and was developed by its late proprietor, Mirko Stocchetti.
And despite its name and the popular belief, it actually was created intentionally in 1967 to be a lighter drink, at least according to Mirko's son.
So now let's make the Negroni sbagliato. So we'll make it by combining in equal parts Campari and vermouth, like before, in equal parts over ice. Give it a good stir. And here's where it's different. We're going to top it with the same measure of Prosecco. Now stir it again gently so as not to disturb the bubbles too much. And then add an orange slice. And now we'll taste our mistake. You see, that's much better than a normal Negroni, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's much sweeter for sure.
That's why I like it. Now there's a whole other category of aperitivi or cocktails, and they are called spritzes, and there's all different ones. But before we talk about those, we're going to digress a little bit and talk about another key part of the aperitivo experience, and that is the snacks that they bring you to eat while you, and munch on while you drink your aperitivo. So your basic aperitivo snacks that you'll get along with your drink, which will probably cost, the drink will cost €6 to €8, and you'll get these kind of snacks to go with it, and that might be peanuts, olives, potato chips, sometimes some bruschetta, stuff like that.
And that comes with the cost of the aperitivo. You're not paying any extra for that.
Right.
Some places offer more elaborate treats, mini sandwiches, salami and cheese, and some regional specialties. Like in Venice, they have cicchetti, which are sort of like tapas in Spain. Now for these, you are going to pay extra. It's usually €2 to €3 a piece. In Naples, you can find fried treats called zeppoline.
Now, more recently, this whole thing has become even more elaborate, and now they have something called apericena, which is a combination of aperitivo and cena, which means dinner. And basically for 10 to 15 euro, you get a more elaborate set of snacks to munch on.
It's especially popular in Milan, so sometimes it'll include pasta, salad, meats. Other times it's more carb-heavy filler, supposedly sometimes even leftovers. It can be a fun, budget-friendly dinner, but before you commit, look at the buffet and make sure it's really worth it.
All right, now we're back to the aperitivi, the actual drinks, and we're gonna go to the category of spritzes. And in general, a spritz combines Campari or another bitter brand, Prosecco, and sparkling water. So it's different than the drinks we talked about before because it does not have vermouth in it, and it has much more Prosecco and sparkling water as a proportion.
One story of the origin of spritz has to do with the Austrians who controlled Italy in the 1800s. Their soldiers thought the Italian wine was too strong, so they asked to have it with a splash of water. Well, the German word einspritzen meant the splash of water, and that's where the spritz came from.
When the Italian regions gained independence later in the 19th century and the Austrian soldiers departed, they left behind their sort of customs of having a spritz in the evening. Soon the spritzer of water became soda water, and in the 20th century wine was replaced by liqueurs and spirits.
Let's talk about the most famous spritz version, the one you'll see everywhere, the Aperol spritz.
Aperol can be thought of as a lighter and sweeter version of Campari, and the Aperol spritz traces its roots back to Padua near Venice, where Aperol was created back in 1919.
Soon there was the Aperol spritz. Its bittersweet flavor, aromatic botanicals, and relatively low alcohol content made it the perfect base for an aperitivo before dinner.
To make an Aperol spritz, we need Prosecco, Aperol, and sparkling water. And the proportions are 3 parts Prosecco, 2 parts Aperol, and 1 part water. Unlike the Negroni and some of those drinks we talked about earlier, the spritz uses a different glass, a large stemmed wine glass type of thing, very full of ice. That's very important for this drink. So you pour the Aperol over the ice and you stir it a little to start the ice melting. Then you add the Prosecco and then the water. And then you stir it gently.
You're always stirring these gently because you don't want to knock the bubbles out of the Prosecco or the sparkling water in this case.
And you finish it off with an orange slice as a garnish. And You don't need to fuss over it because this is a very casual drink.
Right. You could just pour this by eye.
It is very refreshing. I get why people like it so much. I might have some more of that.
It's a little sweet for my taste, but it's good.
We might get toasted doing this video. So that's the Aperol Spritz. Okay, now we're going to talk about the Campari Spritz. And the Campari Spritz is made pretty much the same as an Aperol Spritz, except instead of Aperol, we use Campari. But we also use the Prosecco and the sparkling water to make it. And the thing about a Campari Spritz, because Campari it has a lot higher alcohol content than Aperol and a more bitter taste, it's quite a different drinking experience. It also has a redder color than the Aperol Spritz, which is a little more orange. But it also uses an orange slice as a garnish. And of course, we have to stir it very gently so as not to disrupt the bubbles. And there they go. There we are. So give me the Aperol and let's compare.
Okay.
So you can see how much redder this one is than the Aperol Spritz. Would you like to try it?
Yes, I will try that.
I'll have another sip of this. I do like that.
I do too. I like this one. One interesting thing is that obviously for a long time, Campari and Aperol were big competitors. But at some point in the past, I don't know exactly when, the Campari company bought Aperol. So now there are just two brands under the same company.
All right, now we are going to make something called a select spritz. And again, it uses the same ingredients except instead of Aperol, it uses a liqueur called Select. Now this is a popular drink in Venice. And Select is an Italian aperitif similar to Campari and Aperol. In that it uses a secret recipe of aromatic herbs and spices in an alcoholic base. But again, all the proportions of the ingredients are the same.
Now one difference in this is the garnish, rather than being an orange, are olives. Because it's felt that the olives match the flavor of the spritz better.
Well, let's taste it and see what you think. Aren't you going to put the olive in there to swirl it around?
It's quite a different flavor then.
Is it good?
Yeah, it's good.
I've never had one of these.
I'll try it with an olive.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's a bit different.
Good. If you're not familiar with the Ugo Spritz, you should be. It's the perfect summertime cooler.
It really is awesome in hot weather. The Ugo Spritz isn't made with a bitter liqueur like the others, but instead it's made with an elderflower cordial that's often made locally by taking the flowers and sugar and fermenting them in the sun. Now, if you don't make it yourself, it's kind of hard to get, but luckily there is the Saint-Germain elderflower liqueur that's available in some places, and that's what most people use.
Elderflower liqueur is lightly sweet, low in alcohol, with some fruity notes like grapefruit and pear.
The Ugo Spritz was invented in 2005 by a bartender named Roland Gruber in a town called Naturno, which is up on the Italian border with Austria. Its popularity quickly spread from its place of origin throughout Austria, Germany, as well as Italy. And little is known about why it got the name Ugo Spritz or Hugo Spritz, other than it won out over an alternative moniker, which was the Otto Spritz. So we're going to make this differently from the other spritzes with a totally different procedure and different proportions. Ed is going to start out by putting a sprig of mint in the glass and then a ½ ounce of the elderflower liqueur. He's going to add that to it. And then he's going to muddle the mint, which basically means to gently bruise it with a spoon against the side of the glass. And after he does that, he's going to sort of let it sit there for a few minutes and kind of have the flavors meld, if you will.
Okay, so now we're going to cut here.
So after we've let it sit for a few minutes, we'll fill the glass with ice. And we'll add 4 ounces of Prosecco. And 1 ounce of soda water, which is right here. And of course, gently stir it to combine. And garnish it with another mint sprig, which really brings out the mint and citrus notes in the drink. I love this one, so give it to me. I'm going to drink it. It is so refreshing. Nice job. Okay, we're not done with spritzes yet. Here's another one. It's called the limoncello spritz. And you know, it's not surprising that they would come up with this drink because limoncello in the last, I would say, 10 or 15 years has become super popular. So it was inevitable that they would come up with a spritz made with limoncello. It's made exactly the same way as the other spritzes in terms of the proportions of Prosecco and sparkling water. It just uses limoncello instead of Aperol or Campari.
And we'll finish this one with a lemon slice if I can find one.
Yeah, obviously a lemon makes more sense here than
It does.
an orange.
There you go.
Cheers. Let's see what we think. It's okay. I think I prefer my limoncello straight.
I agree. Now, I thought it'd be interesting to look at, let me put them out here. Where do I put them?
You're gonna line them up?
I'll line them up so we can see differences between them. This is the order in which we made them.
Wow, you can remember? Oh, these are just the spritzes.
These
all
are
right.
just the spritzes. So you can see that the variation in color is, oh, I've got these out of order. Nope. Yep. This is the Aperol and this is the Campari. So we've got, I hope this is in the frame. We've got the Aperol, the Campari, the Select, the Ugo, and the Limoncello Spritz. So you've sort of got an array of colors that you can have for your aperitivo.
See how much fun aperitivo can be?
Now it's time for another classic, the Bellini. It's light, fruity, bubbly, really often served at brunch or special occasions.
The Bellini was invented by Giuseppe Cipriani, who was the founder of Harry's Bar in Venice. And it is said that he named the drink the Bellini because of its unique pink color, which reminded him of the paintings of the 15th century Venetian artist Giovanni Bellini.
Like many legendary bars around the world, Harry's Bar owes some of its fame to Ernest Hemingway, that well-known drinker.
Now, a Bellini is very different from the drinks that we've talked about so far because it relies not on a liqueur, but on a peach puree as its main flavor base. And traditionally in Italy, people have marinated peaches in wine, so he sort of draws on this tradition to make this drink.
It's also prepared and served differently. According to Cipriani in his 1978 book, L'Angolo di Harry's Bar, it's better to prepare it in a carafe because if you put in the peach puree and pour the Prosecco on top in a glass, it's likely to overflow.
Our proportions here are twice as much Prosecco as peach puree. So Ed is going to prepare this in the carafe as advised by Cipriani, so we don't have an explosion all over the kitchen.
It does foam up.
It does foam up. It's like one of those experiments you learn in the 3rd grade, where you put baking soda in with, what, vinegar? No.
Vinegar, yeah.
With vinegar to create an explosion.
Now this one's also served in a different glass. It's served in a champagne flute, which we will pour this in there. And if we were really good at doing this, we would garnish this with a fresh peach slice, but we don't have one.
They're not in season quite yet. So let's try our drink. Not bad, a little sweet. I think the one that I've had in Venice was even sweeter than this. This isn't too bad.
That's actually pretty good. You could obviously increase the amount of Prosecco if you wanted to take some of the sweetness down.
I think this is kind of the Italian version of a Mai Tai or something.
A mimosa.
Or a mimosa, that's right. Not bad. Now we're going to talk about the Garibaldi. Now this simple, colorful drink is named for Giuseppe Garibaldi, who was a crucial figure in the unification of Italy. The red-orange drink represents the red shirts, who were the followers of Garibaldi or the Garibaldini.
This lesser-known classic is also known as a Campari orange. It combines Campari from northern Italy with oranges from Sicily. And the idea here was to show the unification of the North and the South in Italy.
Though it's only made with 2 ingredients, it's said that the secret to making the Garibaldi lies in fluffing up the orange juice using a handheld frother, like this. The frothy texture helps to soften the Campari's bitterness. So I'm frothing the orange juice. I'm sure this is going to make all the difference in the world. Is it frothy enough? It's pretty, little frothy. Pretty frothy. Okay, keep frothing. My frother, I think, is running out of battery. It's kind of weak. Okay. That'll have to do.
So it's that and half as much of 3 parts. So only a third of this in Campari. Oh, I didn't mean to mix it again, but I did.
Oh, wow. Oof. We better invite some people over to drink this. That's a lot of Garibaldi. And give it a stir.
Give it a stir.
I don't think this one has a garnish, does it?
Not that I know of. It probably does. I
It's
think.
got a nice color, though.
If we were good bartenders, it would have a...
Yeah, it's okay.
I don't think I put in enough
Campari.
Campari.
I figured you'd like it to be bitterer.
When we were young, or 20 or something, there was a
long
drink
time
called
ago.
the Tequila Sunrise.
Oh, this looks like a tequila
It's
sunrise.
sort of like this. You use grenadine and orange juice and vodka, I think, or tequila, obviously. And I thought this would look a little bit more like that, but I guess in the Tequila Sunrise, you poured the grenadine on top, so the red sort of diffused through the drink.
Well, we could do that here.
Now the Campari sinks.
We could invent our own
We could.
something, Campari Sunrise or something.
Campari Sunrise.
If you're ever in Milan and want to get some hands-on experience making Italian aperitivi, you should really check out our friend Armando, who does a class or an experience called The Art of Italian Aperitivo. And it's tons of fun and you learn a lot. We did it when we were there recently, and we'll put a link to his class in the description below.
If you like this video about aperitivo, watch this one about Italian coffee next.
Ciao for now.
A presto!